team. So it's always a pleasure coming to these events. And it's a real pleasure, of course, now to be able to present you and to speak to you, as well as to listen, because much of what happens here has given us the opportunity to bring forward solutions and enable us all to succeed. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. And I appreciate the warm welcome. And of course, I also want to thank all of you for participating and being here as well, because the success of any leader, the success of our province, is the engagement of its people. And that's what you're all about, and that's why you're here. I also know it's a particularly busy time. Productive folks like yourselves are returning from vacations, but are rested up, as am I, by the way, and raring to go. I know that people in this room are no exception, so I want to thank you as well for your gift, and that's your valuable time. I see a lot of familiar faces here today. Many of these are folks, individuals who I've had the pleasure of working with and during my time in government. You know, answer that phone, please. You know, as a kid from an immigrant family, being named to cabinet was very humbling. And I remember calling my dad, and I said, "Dad, an incredible thing just happened. I got appointed to cabinet." He said, "That's great. It's about time. What did you pick?" And I said, "Dad, it doesn't quite work that way. I was appointed as Minister of Labor." He paused for a second, and then he said, "Well, that's no good. Go back and pick another." Of course, right now I'm running to be the leader of the Liberal Party and Premier of Ontario. And I'm afraid if I win, he'll say, "Go back and pick another." But that's my dad for you. He believes in aiming high. He taught us that if you want something, you go for it and you never give up. Patiently, persistently, until you've achieved your goal. And if you think about it, that is a very Ontario way, because that's what we're all like. We patiently, persistently work hard for our success. And that has made us succeed in industry, in finance, in agriculture, in virtually every field and endeavor we put our minds to. And it's made us the economic engine of Canada. A country that, according to The Economist, is one of the 10 best places in the world for a child to be born right now, in terms of quality of life and future opportunity. And that's a positive outlook. And we need to do everything we can to keep it on track. That means continuing to take action to recover from the recession. There's no doubt the global recession hurt our businesses, which in turn hurt our government revenues and inflated our deficit. But more importantly, the recession hurt our families. I bet if I went around the room, everyone could tell me or tell us a story of a friend, a neighbor, or a family member whose job got downsized or right-sized or just plain eliminated in the past few years. And that shakes people's confidence. It shakes their confidence in the economy and their confidence in our province. Now, the way I see it, leaders can respond to that loss of confidence in one of two ways. They can feed the fear and anxiety people feel for their own partisan gain, which is self-serving and short-sighted. Or they can work to restore confidence, build people up, and work hard to build opportunity, which helps all Ontarians succeed in the long run. That's what I'd like to talk about today. I want to talk about what we can do to build opportunity, not just as a government, not just as businesses, but as Ontarians working together with one another, for one another. I mentioned my dad earlier. I talk a lot about him because he inspires me. I've always looked up to him, and frankly, he's the reason I am running for Premier. Not because I want to make him proud, but because he's made me proud. Proud to be an Ontarian, proud of what our province represents, and eager to do more and help even more Ontarians succeed. My dad didn't come here with much. As a merchant back in Portugal, he fought for more social programs in his village. The fascist government of the time saw him as a threat, and they were coming after him. So in 1953, he fled to Canada with as much as he could carry, and he left his family behind. He arrived off the boat, as they say, at Pier 21 in Halifax. At first, he worked in Goose Bay, Labrador in the camps, where they put him to work as a dishwasher. It didn't take him long before he began buying and selling goods in the camp, a skill he eventually took to Kensington Market, where he started a restaurant and a rooming house. He quickly grew a thriving wholesale business, where he produced and sold packaged goods, canned goods, fish, dry products, and boy, did he succeed. Not only did his business become one of the biggest suppliers to local restaurants, merchants, and retail stores, our home also became a boarding house for new immigrants to Canada and a focal point for the Portuguese community. He helped people get started with a place to stay. He provided helpful advice. He even partnered with people to help them get established. He, for me, was a real-life King of Kensington. Sometimes he'd even help people get started in the same line of business, the very people who wanted to be his competitors. And when his neighbors and friends asked him, "Why would you do such a thing?" he'd say, "In Ontario, there's room for everyone to compete and do business, room for everyone to learn, and above all, room for everyone to help each other." You see, my dad's view of business was simple, but revolutionary. His motto was, if you do well, I do well. In a world where some people, particularly folks in the political extreme, seem to think that the only way to get ahead is through winner take all, survival of the fittest approach, my dad had a better idea. His reasoning went something like this. If you have a business, you'll employ people, and they'll make money, and they'll need to buy goods. And some of the goods they'll buy will be mine, which helps me. And that's why he goes so far as to help his competitors, because he knew that Ontario, there is room for everybody to succeed. And because he believed that it's not enough to seize opportunity for yourself, you have to do what you can to create opportunity for others. Friends, that's my philosophy too. Building opportunity for others is why I'm running for Premier. It will define my approach to the economy as Ontario's Premier. You know, in the 25 years I spent working in the private sector, in my work with clients at the bank, with many small businesses, with new Canadians, and with families that have been here for generations as well, with hundreds of employees, I've seen that same sentiment expressed over and over again. All any Ontarian wants is an opportunity. Ontarians don't care about the politics of division. They don't care about the soap operas at Parliament Hill and at Queen's Park. Because in addition to being patient and persistent, Ontarians are pragmatic. And they don't care if the government of the day is left-wing or right-wing, whether the party is red, blue, orange, or purple. They just want government that works, and works for them. All they need is a chance to work and succeed, a chance to have a say, to be heard, a chance to make their own mark in life and create opportunities for their kids to do the same. As a Portuguese Canadian growing up in Kensington, I had that opportunity. I want every kid in every community today to have that opportunity too. For me, opportunity starts with mobility. Getting people and goods moving is one of the top priorities in the Toronto Board of Trade, as Carol has just mentioned, and it's one of mine as well. At last count, it costs the GTA $6 billion a year, and it costs families too. Every minute stuck in traffic is a minute some mom or dad isn't spending at the dinner table, or at their kid's hockey game, or enjoying some downtime as a family. And the pressure is only going to increase unless we change it. If you sat on the Gardiner at rush hour, you've seen what I've seen. Cranes everywhere, condos going up, which means people are pouring in, which is increasing pressure on our transportation system. So let's fix it. Look, everyone knows the TTC isn't everything it could be. For 25 years, it's been a political football. So I'd integrate our transit systems into one regional system by making Metrolinx responsible for the TTC. Not just because the status quo isn't working, but because making the TTC part of a truly regional system would work much better, and improving return on investment for taxpayers across the GTA who already subsidize it. And building the TTC that Torontonians can be proud of once again. We've talked a lot, and it's been going on long enough. So let's get at it. It is time for action. There's a lot of political gridlock, more so than literal gridlock. And the same goes for high-speed rail. Folks, we could pave the way from Windsor to Montreal with the studies that have been done on high-speed rail over the years. Again, now is time for action. As a first step, I would connect Hamilton to Toronto and Toronto to Oshawa. That will help clear gridlock and lay the foundation for future expansion from Windsor to Quebec City. Yep, it is a big ticket item. That's why I'd partner with the private sector to find innovative financing solutions to get the job done and protect the taxpayer. We've already delivered over 50 projects this way, saving taxpayers over $2 billion already. It works in other places. It works in Ontario. So let's be bold. Let's invest in our future. Let's make long-term investments that will provide opportunities for future generations of Ontarians, from east to west, as well as north to south. Let's take action, and let's build. That means continuing to build our education system too, because that's the best way to build opportunity. I'm tremendously proud to have been part of a government that has done more for education in this province than ever. More to build schools, more to hire teachers, more to improve test scores and lower class sizes, more than any government since Bill Davis. Today, we have the best schools in the English-speaking world. We teach and train highly skilled workers that our economy demands. And our schools can also attract international talent. So we need to sell Ontario's colleges and universities around the world and attract the best and brightest to learn and work in our province, so that when those kids succeed, and they will, they'll do it here in Ontario. That's why we must invest in our colleges and universities. Within 90 days of taking office, I choose sites for 3 new university and colleges campuses. I can already tell you that one of them will be in Milton, the fastest growing community in Ontario. But our government has already committed to the idea of 3 campuses, so now it's time to act. We'll be training more workers, building stronger communities, and creating more jobs. And speaking of jobs, our auto sector is home to 400,000 such jobs, good jobs. We protected those jobs when the recession hit. And in communities like Oshawa, Cambridge, and St. Catharines, that made all the difference for hundreds of thousands of families. The opposition called it corporate welfare. I call it the right thing to do. And I'll take actions to defend and promote our strong auto sector in Ontario. I'll work with organized labor and with management to find ways to grow the industry, continue to market it abroad, and invest in the skills of our workers. That will build more opportunity for more Ontarians and communities across the province. But it's not just auto. Our industries are as diverse as Ontario. For example, a massive chromite deposit in the Ring of Fire in Northern Ontario has enormous potential for job creation and growth. And it's not just about mining, it's about churning raw chromite into stainless steel, a tremendously valuable commodity, which will in turn make Northern Ontario a manufacturing powerhouse. We can and must get that job done faster. We also need to strengthen and broaden our industrial base, so we're making more things in more cities. This might be a strange thing to say to the Toronto Board of Trade, but I'm taking a page out of my dad's book when I say we need all our cities to succeed. Because if they succeed, Toronto succeeds. So we need IT in Kitchener-Waterloo to thrive. We need more high tech in Ottawa to grow, and pharmaceuticals in Mississauga to expand. Because regional centers of innovation and development and of the products of tomorrow with highly skilled jobs of today is essential. And because growth outside the GTA frees up funds to make more investments in the GTA. So my government would continue to support Ontario innovation and the jobs that come with it. That's where Toronto comes in. Toronto has the ability to supply venture capital, incubation, and enable companies to grow and bring them to market. That's what we're good at. Toronto is a financial services powerhouse, and we need to unleash that power. We also need rural centers to succeed, And in a global diverse economy, there are lots of opportunities for smaller communities to get some skin in the game. To help them find opportunity, we have to build stronger ties with our international trading partners. And we have to sell Ontario goods, services, and expertise abroad. After all, we are a trading province. On a per capita basis, we are one of the best trading provinces anywhere in the world. Markets like China, India, and Brazil are increasingly important. And as Premier, I'd make sure that we continue to build those relationships, to give Ontario businesses greater access to foreign markets and attract more foreign investment into Ontario. Two things. We need to slay the deficit by 2017 as per our economic plan. That is critical. And secondly, we must continue to invest in long-term so that we can become even more competitive and enable economic growth. Those are what provides strong fundamentals for the province of Ontario. And it is why we've also got to protect Ontario investors. Just last week, I launched a new plan that would bring greater certainty and security to Ontario investors. We also need to make sure that we're continuing to welcome people to Ontario who have skills we need to expand our economy. As Minister, I helped launch Ontario's first immigration strategy. As Premier, I'll take the next step by making sure immigration works better to support Ontario's economy and ensuring that newcomers have better opportunities to find meaningful employment and become entrepreneurs, just like my family did back in the 50s, and as so many have done since. You know, I look at when my mom and dad did this for us as kids. They didn't give us fancy presents or big gifts. They gave us the benefit of their wisdom, their experience, and they gave us, above all, a great example to follow, an example of hard work, of giving back to the community. My brother followed that example into a career in education. I followed that example into business and politics. I see my parents' good example in the lives of my own kids. I see my eldest daughter with a head for business and a generous heart. My son, the university student, and a budding entrepreneur. And my youngest, only in grade 11, but already so full of promise. I see in them and in my parents what I see in all Ontarians. I see what you see in your own kids, in your friends, people who are working patiently, persistently to build opportunity, not just for themselves, but for one another. I look around Ontario and I still see what my father saw. I see a promise that burns just as bright today as it did 60 years ago. My friends, when I look at Ontario, our beautiful province, I see a room for everyone, a room for everyone to compete and do business, a room to learn, and above all, room to help each other. Thank you all so much.